So if we're going to be calculating this, and we've got 2 points, the first thing we said is rise over run. So we can graph them and we can count how far up, how far over. So that'll be the first thing we do. So for this, and you don't need to write this down, you don't need graph paper for it, please just follow along. If I wanted to graph these 2 points, I would have the point 3, 1, so I go over 1, 2, 3, and up 1. The point 5, 6, I go over 5 and up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And here's the idea of using rise over run. If I wanted to find the slope by using a graph, I would start from this point here and I would go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I would go over 1, 2. So I went up 5, I went over 2. Remember, going up or down is your rise, left or right is your run. So for this, I would say the answer I should get is 5 over 2. And that will be the final answer. But what if the numbers I gave you were much larger? What if the points weren't single-digit numbers? What if they were in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s? It would be a big waste of your time to take, and also a waste of graph paper, I guess, to take one sheet of graph paper and draw a gigantic graph just to put points that have larger numbers. There's a better way to do this. And here's what I want you looking for. Here are the points that we started with. And we did a lot of labeling last week saying that this is X and this is Y. So go ahead and label those right now. Each point is X and then Y. So what I would like for you to do is I want you to look at the numbers that were in the points. We had a 3 and a 1. We had a 5 and a 6. How could I use those numbers? So think of different combinations of these numbers. How could I use those numbers to come up with a 5 and a 2? Irvin? I went up and I went to the right. But I'm not talking about on a graph, I'm talking just the numbers. What could I do with them? Add, subtract, multiply, divide. Think of some different combinations of things, like 3 plus 1 will give me 4. Well, there's no 4 here. What'd you say? Subtract what? Which specific numbers? The 3 and the 1? Okay, so I could do 3 minus 1, that gives me a 2. But 5 minus 6 doesn't give me a 5. But you're on the right track. Irvin? Very good. So here's the way this is going to work. And everyone please pay close attention to this. This is how we're going to do these normally. Instead of making a graph and going through the process of X and Y axis, plot the points, and then count up and over, we can do this mathematically, and it's a very simple process. It's just subtraction. And all you're going to do is you're subtracting the X's and you're subtracting the Y's. But there's a specific order we're going to do this in. So if you would, please go ahead and write this down. There is a formula for finding the slope. When you're finding the slope, you're going to subtract the Y's, and you're going to subtract the X's. We put the Y's on top because it's rise over run. Rise is up and down like the Y-axis, so Y's go on top. Run is left and right like the X-axis, so X's go on the bottom. But there's a problem with this formula. If I write the formula just like this, y minus y, what's anything minus itself? 0. So this formula, the way it's written, would tell me that it's always 0 over 0. Well, that's not right. Our answer was 5 over 2. So we're going to do a little extra labeling. Up here where I had you do x and y, we got to get a little more specific. We're going to call this point 1. We're going to call this point 2, which makes this x1 and y1, x2 and y2. So now when I have my formula, I'm going to put 1's and 2's in here. It does not matter which one you start with, as long as it's the same on the top and bottom. So you could do 1 minus 2 and 1 minus 2, or you can do 2 minus 1 and 2 minus 1. The normal way to do this, the way you will usually see this written in textbooks, and you'll see it in other classes after this, is just like this. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This is a formula that you will need to memorize. You'll need this for this class and this chapter. You will need this definitely a lot next year in Algebra 1. So make sure that you have this written down if you haven't written it already. You will be needing this. And to quickly show how it's used, let's just do the math here. If we follow this formula, we'll just go in order. Which number is y2? What numbers I labeled up here, which one is y2? 6. The formula has a minus sign, so minus. Which number is y1? It's 1. Which one's x2? The 5 right there. And then there's only one number left. Which number is x1? 3. And then we just do the subtractions. 6 minus 1 is 5. 5 minus 3 is 2. And that's my answer, the same answer we got by graphing. But you'll see in the next example, this goes a lot faster than graphing.